bank called me while my husband was dancing with another woman at his wedding reception. Not our wedding reception. His. The one I had not been invited to. The one he told me was only a business dinner out of town. The one he paid for with my credit card. I was standing in the small break room behind the community library, eating cold rice from a plastic container, when my phone started vibrating on the table. At first, I almost ignored it. I had been on my feet since 7 that morning, organizing donated books, helping 2 mothers fill out job applications, and teaching an elderly man how to use email so he could speak to his granddaughter. My husband, Darius Langford, was supposed to be in Charlotte for a private investor meeting. That was what he told me. He said it was important. He said it could change our future. He said I should not bother him unless someone was dying. So when the bank's fraud department called, I thought maybe my card had been stolen. In a way, it had. Mrs. Langford, the woman on the phone said carefully, "We're calling to confirm several large transactions on your Sapphire Reserve account." My fork stopped halfway to my mouth. What transactions? There was a pause, then the clicking of keys. A charge of $12,800 at Belle Maison Events. Another charge of $6,400 at Magnolia Luxe Florals. $4,900 at a bridal boutique. And a pending authorization for $21,000 at the Alderbrook Grand Hotel. For a moment, the break room disappeared. The humming refrigerator. The old microwave. The chair with one wobbly leg. Everything went quiet except the woman's voice and the word bridal still echoing inside my head. "I'm sorry," I said slowly. "Did you say bridal boutique?" "Yes, ma'am. My husband is at a business dinner." The woman on the phone became quieter. "Mrs. Langford, the card was physically presented at the hotel approximately 20 minutes ago." I looked down at my wallet lying open beside my lunch. My credit card was gone. Not misplaced. Gone. The same card I kept hidden behind my library ID because Darius said I was too emotional with money, even though I was the one who paid the mortgage when his big opportunities kept falling through. My hands began to shake. "Can you tell me where the hotel is?" "I can confirm the merchant location," she said. "Alderbrook Grand Hotel, Charleston." Charleston, not Charlotte. Charleston was 40 minutes away, and that hotel was not for business dinners. Everyone in our town knew what the Alderbrook Grand was for. Weddings, galas, rich people's anniversaries, rooms with chandeliers, marble floors, and flowers that cost more than rent. The woman asked if I recognized the charges. I did not answer right away. Because deep inside me, a door had opened. Behind it was every late night Darius refused to explain. Every phone call he took outside. Every new shirt he bought while telling me we had to cut groceries. Every time his mother looked at me like I was a temporary inconvenience. Every whisper that stopped when I entered a room. And suddenly, all of it had a shape. A reception. A bride. A husband who was still married to me. I told the bank to freeze the card. Then I hung up, took off my library apron, picked up my car keys, and drove to the Alderbrook Grand. I did not know yet that by the time I walked into that ballroom, Darius would be standing under a wall of white roses, holding a microphone, telling 200 people he had finally found the woman who matched his destiny. I did not know his bride would be wearing a dress purchased with my card. I did not know his mother would be seated at the front table, smiling beside a gold sign that said, "The Langfords." And I definitely did not know that the hotel manager, the bank investigator, and the police officer near the entrance would all be watching when the truth walked in, wearing a faded library cardigan and the quiet face of a wife who had finally stopped believing lies. Before I continue, tell me where you are watching from tonight, and if you have ever been betrayed by someone who thought your kindness made you blind, stay with this story, because sometimes the bill comes due in the middle of the celebration, and the person they forgot to invite is the only one with the receipt. My name is Amira Langford now, but before Darius gave me a name he never honored, I was Amira Cole, daughter of a librarian and a woman who sold homemade soap at Saturday markets. I grew up in a small town outside Savannah, in a yellow house with peeling shutters and shelves in every room. We did not have much money, but we had books, and in my mother's mind, that meant we were never poor. My father, Jonah Cole, ran the town library for 31 years. He knew everyone's reading habits the way some people knew birthdays. He knew which child needed a book about courage but was too shy to ask. He knew which woman checked out legal guides and returned them with trembling hands. He knew which old men came to the library not to read, but because it was warm and someone would say their name kindly. My mother, Ruth, was louder than him, warmer, and impossible to ignore. She sold lavender soap, honey soap, oatmeal soap, and little jars of shea butter she mixed in our kitchen while singing old gospel songs off-key. She believed every person deserved to smell good, eat well, and be spoken to with respect. Together, they raised me to believe dignity was not something other people handed you. It was something you carried. My father used to say, "Amira, never let a person's suit fool you. Some people dress like success because they are hiding emptiness underneath." I laughed at that when I was young. Then I married Darius. Darius Langford came into the library on a Wednesday afternoon wearing a navy suit and a smile that made two women at the front desk forget what they were doing. He said he was looking for books on investment psychology and leadership. He was 30 then, tall, handsome, polished, with a voice that made even ordinary sentences sound important. I was 25, newly hired as a community programs coordinator, still wearing thrift store blouses and believing people mostly meant what they said. He asked me where the business books were. I walked him to the shelf. He did not look at the books first. He looked at me. "You know," he said, "most people point. You actually walk someone there." "It's a library," I said. "Getting people where they need to go is part of the job." He smiled. "That sounds bigger than books." I liked him immediately. That was my first mistake. Not because liking someone is wrong, but because sometimes charm arrives before truth, and if you are lonely enough, charm can look like character from a distance. Darius came back the next week, then the week after that. Sometimes he checked out books. Sometimes he only pretended to need help finding something. He asked about my work. He listened when I spoke about building literacy programs for adults who had never finished school. He said my heart was rare. At the time, I did not know that men like Darius are very good at studying what a woman wants to hear. He told me he was building a business consulting firm. He said he helped small companies scale, though now I realize most of those companies existed more in his speeches than in reality. He talked about investors, partnerships, and big moves that were always just around the corner. The first time I introduced him to my father, Daddy shook his hand, smiled politely, and asked what he was reading. Darius named 3 books. My father asked what he thought of the second chapter of one of them. Darius laughed and said, "I'm more of a big picture person." My father smiled. But later that night, when Darius left, Daddy placed his glasses on the table and said, "A man who borrows books to impress people, but does not read them, will one day borrow other things too." I rolled my eyes. "Daddy." He raised both hands. "I am only saying, watch what he does with what he takes." I thought he was being protective. Now I know he was being precise. Darius proposed after 14 months. He did it in front of the library, under the old oak tree where my parents had met. People clapped. My mother cried. My father smiled with his mouth but not his eyes. I did not see that then. I saw the ring, the man kneeling, the life I thought was beginning. His mother, Bernice Langford, did not come to the engagement dinner. She said she was sick. Later, I learned she was not sick. She was disappointed. Bernice had imagined her son marrying a woman from money. Not old money, necessarily, but at least visible money. A woman whose family had a business, property, connections, or a last name that made introductions easier. Instead, Darius brought home a librarian's daughter who worked with donated books and elderly volunteers. When I finally met Bernice, she hugged me with one arm and looked over my shoulder as if hoping someone better had come in behind me. "So you work at the library," she said. "Yes." How sweet. I would come to hate that word. Sweet. It was what people called you when they wanted to praise your usefulness without respecting your power. Darius told me not to take Bernice personally. "She just wants the best for me," he said. "And I'm not that?" He kissed my forehead. "You are. She just has to adjust." That was the beginning of a long marriage where everyone expected me to adjust. We got married in the church where my parents had married. It was not grand, but it was full. My mother made soap favors for every guest. My father gave a speech about love being a library where both people must learn to return what they borrow. People laughed. Darius laughed too. But my father's eyes were serious. For the first 3 years, marriage felt ordinary in the best way. We rented a small house. Darius worked from a desk in the corner of the living room, making calls and sending proposals. I worked at the library. We ate late dinners and dreamed about the future. Then the cracks began. Darius's business did not grow the way he promised. Clients came and went. Investors praised his ideas but rarely wrote checks. He bought expensive notebooks, attended conferences, and ordered business cards with titles that sounded larger than his income. I covered the rent more than once, then the utilities, then the car insurance. Each time, he said it was temporary. Once this deal closes, he told me again and again, everything changes. But deals did not close. They floated. They shimmered. They lived in the future like mirages. The only thing that changed was his resentment. Darius hated needing me, not openly at first. He wrapped it in jokes. My wife keeps the lights on, he would say at dinner parties, laughing like it was charming. Everyone laughed. I smiled. But later, when we got home, he would be cold, angry, quiet. He hated that people knew I was steady. He hated that his big dreams rested on my small salary. He hated that my father could fix a broken chair while he could not fix his business. Then my father died. It happened during a stormy night in October. A heart attack. Quick, the doctor said, as if quick was a kindness that could fill the hole in my chest. My mother collapsed in the hospital hallway. I remember Darius holding my shoulders, whispering that he was there, that he would take care of everything. For a while, he did. He helped with arrangements. He carried boxes. He drove my mother to appointments. He stood beside me at the funeral, handsome and solemn, and people said I was blessed to have such a supportive husband. But after the funeral, something shifted. My father had left me a small inheritance, or so I thought. Not much. Enough to pay off a few debts, help my mother with the house, and create an emergency fund. He also left me a safety deposit box at a local bank and a letter. My beloved Amira, one day you may need proof that quiet people can protect loudly. In the box are documents I hope you never need, and some you will need when the time is right. Do not show them to anyone who makes you feel smaller for being careful. Money can be rebuilt, trust cannot. If Darius honors you, build with him. If he borrows from your peace and never returns it, stop lending. Your daddy. I cried when I read it, but I did not open the safety deposit box. I told myself there was no need. Darius was my husband. That was the sentence I used to close my own eyes. When Darius learned I had received money, he changed. Not dramatically. Not enough for outsiders to notice, but enough. He started talking about investments we could make. Business opportunities. A chance to buy into a consulting platform. A friend who knew someone who could get him access to a private network. He said my father would want his money to grow. I gave him $10,000 first. Then 15. Then, after he cried in the kitchen and said he felt like a failure as a man, I gave him more. My mother warned me. Baby, help is one thing, bleeding is another. I said, he is my husband. She looked so tired when I said it. Yes, she replied, but are you his wife or are you his bank? That sentence hurt enough for me to avoid her for a week. Not because she was wrong, because she was close. 2 years later, Darius's business finally appeared to improve. He got a contract with a regional events company, then another with a hospitality group. He started dressing better again, talking louder, moving through rooms with the old confidence. But now there was a difference. He no longer looked at me like the woman who had carried him. He looked at me like evidence of a time he wanted to erase. He began attending events without me. Industry people, he said. You would be bored. He stopped introducing me as part of his success. When I asked to come, he sighed. Amira, these are not library fundraisers. That sentence lived in me for months. Not because it was the cruelest thing he ever said. Because of how casually he said it. Like my life's work was a smaller room he had outgrown. Then Simone Vale entered the story. Simone was 28, a wedding planner with a rich girl laugh and a poor relationship with truth. She worked with Belle Maison Events, the same company that later charged my card $12,800. She had a sharp bob, smooth skin, and the confidence of someone who had never been told no by a person she considered important. Darius said she was a client, then a collaborator, then a friend. I met her at a hotel networking event. I had practically begged Darius to let me attend. He introduced me quickly, almost nervously. "Simone, this is my wife, Amira." Simone's eyes flicked over me. "Oh," she said, "you're the wife." The wife. Not his wife. The wife. I smiled and offered my hand. "It's nice to meet you." She took my hand lightly, like she feared catching my plainness. "I've heard so much about you," she said. I looked at Darius. "Really?" He cleared his throat. Simone tilted her head. "Darius says you keep him grounded." Grounded? Sweet, steady, grounded. Words people use when they want to bury you politely. That night, I watched Simone move through the room with Darius. She touched his arm when laughing. She leaned close when speaking. She corrected his tie once, and he let her. When I mentioned it on the drive home, he became angry. Not defensive, angry. "You always do this." "Do what?" "Make my professional life uncomfortable because you feel insecure." "She fixed your tie, Darius." "She is an event professional. Details matter." "I am your wife. Details matter to me too." He laughed then, and I remember the sound because it had no warmth. "Maybe if you cared about details, you would not dress like you are going to shelve books everywhere we go." I looked down at my navy dress, the one I had saved for 2 months to buy. I said nothing. Silence becomes a habit when every answer is turned into proof against you. After Simone, Darius became harder to reach. He traveled more. He guarded his phone. He changed passwords. He spent money faster and explained less. Then the credit card requests began. At first, he asked politely, "Baby, can I use your Sapphire card for a client dinner? I'll pay it off before the statement closes. I just need the points and the higher limit." Then it became assumption. "I used your card for the hotel hold. Don't worry, it'll reverse." Then irritation. "Why are you acting like I'm stealing? We're married." That sentence is dangerous in the wrong mouth. "We're married" can mean I will protect you. Or it can mean I believe your boundaries belong to me. By then, my credit was excellent because my father had taught me never to spend what I could not explain. Darius's credit was damaged from business loans, late payments, and temporary timing issues that never seemed temporary to anyone but him. So my card became useful. And I, foolishly, let usefulness feel like partnership. One evening, I found a charge for $700 at a florist. When I asked about it, he said it was a corporate gift basket. Another charge at a dress shop. He said it was for a client raffle, a hotel suite downtown. He said an investor had flown in, and he had to secure the booking. Every answer came wrapped in irritation, as if my questions were disrespectful. Eventually, I stopped asking about every charge. I told myself I was choosing peace. Really, I was choosing delay. Because peace and delay can look similar when you are tired. My mother saw through it. She came over one Sunday afternoon with soup and found me at the kitchen table surrounded by statements. "Amira," she said softly. I started gathering papers. "It is fine. No one who is fine hides bills when her mother walks in." I closed my eyes. She sat across from me. "How much?" "I don't know." That was the first time I admitted it out loud. I did not know how much Darius had spent, borrowed, shifted, charged, promised, or hidden. My mother reached across the table and took my hand. "Open your father's box." I pulled away slightly. "I am not ready." "You are not ready, because you already know why he left it." I looked at her. She did not blink. That night, after she left, I drove to the bank. It was closed, of course, but I sat in the parking lot staring at the glass doors. My father's safety deposit key was on my keychain, small and brass, worn smooth from years of not being used. The next morning, I almost went in. Then Darius called, sweet for the first time in weeks. "Baby, I've been stressed," he said. "I know I've been distant. Let me make it up to you. People wonder why women stay. Sometimes it is not because they believe the lie completely. Sometimes it is because the truth will require them to destroy the last version of love they were still holding." So I drove away from the bank. I did not open the box. 2 months later, Darius told me he had a major opportunity in Charlotte. He said the meeting involved investors connected to hospitality, events, luxury development, and media partnerships. He said it might finally put him in the circles he deserved. "I'll be gone 2 nights," he said, packing a black suit into his garment bag. "Do you want me to come?" He paused, then smiled too kindly. "Not this time." I nodded slowly. "Why not?" "Because this is business, Amira. Serious business." There it was again. That line between his serious world and my smaller one. He left on Friday morning. He kissed my cheek, not my lips. I watched him carry his suitcase out the door. Something inside me already knew he was not going where he said. But knowing without proof is a lonely prison. The bank gave me proof. At 6:14 p.m. that Saturday, my phone rang in the library break room. By 6:22, I had frozen the card. By 6:27, I was in my car. By 7:08, I reached the Alderbrook Grand Hotel. The place looked like a wedding cake made of stone and money. Tall columns, valet parking, warm lights glowing through high windows. Flower arrangements by the entrance so large they looked like small trees. I parked across the street because I did not want a valet touching my old car. For a moment, I sat there gripping the steering wheel. My reflection in the rearview mirror startled me. No makeup, hair pulled back, faded cardigan over a library blouse, tired eyes. A woman who looked like she belonged at a parent-teacher meeting, not outside a luxury wedding reception. Then I remembered my father's words. Stop lending. I got out. Inside the lobby, music spilled from the ballroom. Laughter, glasses, applause. A sign near the entrance read, "Welcome to the wedding celebration of Darius and Simone." For a moment, I stopped breathing. Not engagement, not party, wedding celebration. Darius and Simone. My husband and the woman he told me was a client. A woman at the guest table smiled at me politely. "Are you with the bride or groom?" I looked at the gold lettering. "The groom," I said. It was not a lie, not yet. She searched the list. Name? Amira Langford. Her smile faltered. She looked again. Then again. "I'm sorry. I don't see you here." Of course I was not there. A wife does not usually make the guest list at her husband's second wedding. From inside the ballroom, someone announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. and Mrs. Langford." The crowd erupted. Mr. and Mrs. Langford. My body moved before my fear could stop it. I walked past the guest table. The woman called after me, but I kept going. The ballroom doors were open, and there he was. Darius stood in the center of the dance floor, wearing a cream tuxedo jacket, smiling like a man who had just won a life he had not paid for. Simone stood beside him in a white beaded gown, the fabric shimmering under the chandeliers. My credit card had bought that dress. My money had bought the flowers hanging above them. My credit had paid for the hotel, where 200 people clapped for the theft of my marriage. At the front table, Bernice sat wearing gold, dabbing her dry eyes. Beside her was a large framed photo of Darius and Simone. Under it, in silver letters, were the words, "A love worth waiting for." I almost laughed. A love worth charging for, maybe. The applause faded slowly as people began to notice me standing near the entrance. First one table, then another, then Bernice, then Darius. His smile froze. Simone turned, still holding her bouquet. When she saw me, her eyes widened, but only for a second. Then she lifted her chin, like a woman who had prepared for a confrontation she never believed would happen publicly. Darius walked toward me quickly. Not too quickly. He was still performing calm. "Amira," he said through his teeth, "What are you doing here?" I looked past him at the flowers. At first, I thought I was here because the bank called. His face changed. Not much. Enough. But now I see I'm here for the reception. People nearby went quiet. Simone stepped closer. "This is private," she said. I looked at her dress. So was my credit card. A ripple moved through the room. Darius grabbed my elbow lightly and tried to steer me toward the hallway. I pulled away. "Do not touch me." His voice dropped. "You need to leave." "No, you needed to not steal." His eyes flashed. "Lower your voice." I smiled then, not because anything was funny, because for years, Darius had survived by making my silence look like maturity. That ended in the ballroom. "The bank froze the card," I said clearly. "So if the final hotel charge has not cleared, you may want to speak with management." The hotel manager, a woman in a black suit, appeared near the side entrance at almost the same moment. Behind her stood a security guard, and beside them was a man I recognized from the bank branch near my mother's house, Mr. Hall. He had helped my father with accounts for years. My stomach tightened. Why was he here? Darius saw him too. His face lost color. Mr. Hall walked toward me, not Darius. "Mrs. Langford," he said gently, "I am sorry to meet you under these circumstances." Darius forced a laugh. "This is a misunderstanding. My wife and I share finances." Mr. Hall looked at him. "Then you can explain why she reported the card missing before arriving." Simone whispered, "Darius?" Bernice stood from the front table. "Amira," she said sharply, "do not ruin this day." I turned to her. "You helped plan it?" Her mouth closed. That was answer enough. The hotel manager spoke next. "Mr. Langford, there is also the matter of the pending authorization." Darius adjusted his jacket. "I will handle it." "With what card?" I asked. The silence that followed was not empty. It was crowded with every lie he had told. Simone looked at him fully now. "Darius, what does she mean?" He turned to her. "Baby? Not here." Baby. The same word he had used on me that morning. Something in my chest twisted, but it did not break. Pain has layers. The first betrayal wounds you. The public insult burns. But the moment you realize a person's tenderness was only a tool they used on whoever stood closest, something strange happens. You stop feeling replaced. You start feeling released. The hotel manager asked us to step into a private office. I agreed. Darius resisted. Simone insisted on coming. Bernice tried to follow, but security stopped her. That might have been the first satisfying moment of the night. Inside the manager's office, the music became muffled. The walls were cream. There was a desk, a lamp, and a silver tray with untouched coffee cups. Darius stood near the door, jaw tight. Simone sat in the chair like a bride trying not to become a headline. Mr. Hall stood beside me. The manager placed printed receipts on the desk. The card ending in 4421 was used for several wedding-related deposits under the name Darius Langford. Some charges cleared, some are pending. The final balance due tonight is $21,000. Simone looked at Darius. "You said your business account covered everything." "It does," he snapped. "No," Mr. Hall said calmly. "It does not." Darius glared at him. Mr. Hall continued. "The business account you attempted to use for the first deposit was declined 3 weeks ago. After that, this credit card was used repeatedly." Simone's face changed. Not heartbreak. Calculation. "You told me Amira knew," she said. I turned slowly. Darius closed his eyes. "So she knew about me. Not fully, maybe, but enough." "You knew he was married?" I asked. She looked at me, then away. "He said you were separated." I laughed once. Softly. "Separated by what? His lies?" Darius slammed his hand on the desk. "Enough." The security guard outside opened the door slightly. Darius lowered his hand. The manager looked at him with professional disgust. "Mr. Langford, unless another valid payment method is provided, we will need to begin formal action for non-payment and fraud review." "Fraud?" Darius said. Mr. Hall turned to me. "Mrs. Langford, As the cardholder, you have the right to dispute all unauthorized charges. Given the amount and circumstances, the bank will open an investigation immediately. Darius stared at me. There it was. Fear. Not regret. Not shame. Fear of consequences. "Amira," he said, suddenly soft, "can we talk?" "We are talking." "No, privately, like husband and wife." I looked at his cream tuxedo jacket. "You announced a new Mrs. Langford 10 minutes ago." Simone stood abruptly. "I need air." No one stopped her. After she left, Darius stepped closer. "Listen to me. I was going to tell you." "When? After the honeymoon?" His lips pressed together. "It got complicated." "No. You made it expensive." He looked toward Mr. Hall, then back at me. "If you dispute the charges, this could destroy me." I nodded. "That sounds serious." "Amira, you charged a wedding to your wife's card." He whispered. I panicked. "No," I said. "You planned. Panic is fast. This took deposits." Mr. Hall looked down, but I saw the corner of his mouth tighten. Darius tried again. "I know you're hurt." That almost made me angry. Not the wedding, not the card. That sentence. Hurt was too small. A stub toe hurts. A rude comment hurts. A forgotten birthday hurts. This was not hurt. This was being erased, robbed, humiliated, and invited to pay for the celebration of your own replacement. "No, Darius," I said quietly. "You do not know what I am, but you are about to learn what I am not." I signed the dispute paperwork. Right there, in the manager's office, while the reception music played through the wall. Darius watched every stroke of the pen like I was cutting rope. When I finished, Mr. Hall placed a second folder in front of me. "This is unrelated to tonight's card issue," he said gently, "but your father instructed that if a significant unauthorized financial event occurred in your marriage, you were to receive these immediately." I stared at him. "My father?" "Yes." The room seemed to shrink. Darius frowned. "What is that?" Mr. Hall did not look at him. "Mrs. Langford, your father maintained a separate protected trust and business account structure in your name. He was concerned that you might one day need clean financial separation." My breath caught. "What trust?" Mr. Hall's eyes softened. "The Cole Family Literacy Trust." Darius laughed suddenly. It was an ugly sound. "Her father was a librarian." Mr. Hall looked at him then. "Yes," he said. "And before that, he was one of the earliest private investors in 3 educational technology companies, 2 publishing platforms, and a national digital learning network. He chose to live simply. That should not be confused with having lived small." The office went silent. Darius's laugh died. Mr. Hall opened the folder. "Mrs. Langford, your father's trust has grown considerably. It controls assets currently valued in the low 9 figures, with additional holdings under review." My hands went cold. "9 figures?" Darius whispered. "What?" Mr. Hall nodded. "Your father left you more than money. He left structure, protection, and instructions." For a moment, I was not in that hotel office. I was a little girl behind the library desk, watching my father stamp due dates inside books. I saw his brown cardigan, his silver glasses, the way he carried himself quietly through a world that never guessed what he held. Darius looked at the folder like it had insulted him. How did I not know about this? Mr. Hall's eyes hardened. I imagine that was intentional. That was the second satisfying moment of the night. The first time in years I saw someone speak to Darius like his confidence did not outrank truth. Mr. Hall turned back to me. "There is also something else. Your father's trust owns a minority but influential stake in Southline Learning Group." I knew that name. Everyone in the education and nonprofit world knew it. Southline funded literacy programs, library networks, online learning access, and community education centers across multiple states. Darius knew it too, because for the past 6 months, he had been trying to secure a consulting contract with them. I looked at him. He looked away. And suddenly, his panic had a second meaning. The card was not the only bill coming due. My father's hidden trust sat quietly inside the very world Darius had been trying to enter. The wedding reception outside had begun to fall apart. You could feel it through the walls. The music stopped. Voices rose. Someone knocked on the office door and whispered to the manager. She stepped out, then returned with a tighter face. "Mr. Langford, the bride is requesting clarification about payment." Darius rubbed his face. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Then I remembered the sign outside. Darius and Simone. A love worth waiting for. Paid by Amira. The police arrived at 8:11 p.m. Not with sirens. Not dramatically. Just two officers walking quietly into the hotel lobby because large financial disputes at luxury hotels do not always look like crime at first. Sometimes they look like men in cream tuxedos sweating under chandeliers. I gave my statement. The hotel gave theirs. The bank initiated fraud review. Darius kept saying it was a marital misunderstanding, but the card had been taken from my wallet without permission. The charges were wedding expenses. I was not invited. The wedding was to another woman, and the man claiming misunderstanding was still legally married to me. Even one officer had to pause when the full shape of it became clear. Simone left the hotel before the cake was cut. Her father, who had paid for part of the guest entertainment but not the venue balance, shouted at Darius in the lobby. Bernice tried to defend her son until the hotel manager asked whether she wanted to provide payment herself. Bernice became quiet after that. Guests left in waves. Some whispered, some filmed, some pretended not to look while looking with their whole faces. I did not return to the ballroom. There was nothing there for me. Outside, on the hotel steps, Darius caught up to me. His bow tie was undone. His jacket was wrinkled. For once, he looked exactly like the kind of man my father had warned me about, polished until pressure touched him. "Amira," he said. I stopped. Mr. Hall stood a few feet away, giving me space, but not leaving me alone. Darius looked at him, then back at me. "Please." That word was strange in his mouth. He had used many words over the years. Baby, dramatic, insecure, sweet, supportive, grounded, wife, problem. Please was new. "What do you want?" He swallowed. "Do not press charges. That is not up to me alone. You can tell them it was a misunderstanding." It was not. "Amira, if this becomes official, I lose everything." I looked at the hotel behind him, the flowers, the guests leaving, the bride gone, the mother hiding, the beautiful lie collapsing under its own invoices. "You used me to pay for the life you wanted with someone else." He flinched. "I was desperate. You were arrogant." He stepped closer, but Mr. Hall shifted slightly, and Darius stopped. "I did love you," he said. I felt tears then. Not because I believed him. Because some part of me had wanted those words for so many years, and now that they arrived, they were too late to feed anything living. "No," I said. "You loved having someone who would keep the lights on while you chased chandeliers." His face tightened. "That's not fair. Neither was charging your wedding to my card." The sentence sat between us like a judge. I walked away. The next morning, my face was not online. That surprised me. I expected the story to spread immediately. Guests had filmed, people had whispered. A wedding collapsing over credit card fraud should have been gossip by sunrise. But Mr. Hall and the bank's legal team moved quickly. So did the hotel. The incident was contained at first, not for Darius's sake, but for mine. My father had built privacy into everything he left me. He had known, somehow, that public humiliation can become a second injury. Over the next week, I opened the safety deposit box. Finally. Inside were documents, letters, account structures, trust summaries, and one small notebook filled with my father's handwriting. The Cole Family Literacy Trust was not only a financial structure, it was my father's life's work. He had invested quietly in education technology before anyone in our town knew what that meant. He had helped fund rural reading software, prison education programs, library access systems, audiobook tools for blind readers, and publishing platforms for small authors. He had done all of it privately, without his name on buildings or websites. Books are doors, he wrote in the notebook, but too many people are born without keys. My father had spent decades making keys, and he left them to me. My mother sat beside me as I read through the papers. She did not look surprised by the existence of the trust, only by the size of it. "You knew something," I said. "I knew your father was careful," she replied. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because he asked me not to unless you came home ready to hear it." I looked at her. She touched my face. "Baby, you were always trying to save that marriage. If I had told you too soon, you might have handed him the keys." That truth hurt, because she was right. I might have. Darius called every day, then twice a day, then from unknown numbers. I did not answer. His lawyer contacted mine. My lawyer, Claudia Mercer, was recommended by Mr. Hall and spoke with the calm voice of a woman who had watched too many men confuse marriage with ownership. She filed for divorce immediately, requested emergency financial protection, and documented the unauthorized charges. Darius tried to frame the wedding as a symbolic commitment ceremony because he claimed our marriage had functionally ended. That lie did not survive the first legal response. We had not separated. He still lived in our house. He still used my income. He still called me his wife when it benefited him. And less than 48 hours before the reception, he had texted me, "Love you, big meeting this weekend, pray for me." Claudia printed that message and placed it in the file. "Men always forget screenshots," she said. The bank investigation expanded. Some charges could be reversed. Some became part of the fraud claim. The hotel pursued payment from Darius directly. Belle Maison Events distanced themselves from Simone, claiming she had misrepresented vendor arrangements. Simone's family refused to pay the remaining balance once they learned Darius was still married. Simone did not marry him. Not legally. The ceremony had been symbolic, because Darius could not produce a divorce decree. He had apparently told her the final paperwork was delayed. In other words, he lied to everyone, just not equally. A month later, Darius came to the library. I saw him through the front windows before he entered. He looked thinner, less polished. His suit still fit, but the man inside it seemed smaller. People at the front desk recognized him and went quiet. He walked to my office. I did not invite him in, but he stood in the doorway anyway. "Amira. Darius." He glanced around. My office was small, books stacked on the shelves, children's drawings pinned near the window, a flyer for adult reading night on the corkboard. He used to hate this room. Now he looked at it like it might save him. "I need to talk to you." "You can talk to Claudia." "I don't want to talk to your lawyer. I want to talk to my wife." I looked at him. "You announced a different wife under chandeliers." His jaw moved. "I deserve that." "No," I said. "You deserved more." That was just the sentence. He stepped inside. I raised a hand. "Do not come farther." He stopped. There was a time when he would not have. That told me fear had taught him what love never did. "I lost the Southline opportunity," he said. I said nothing. "They said my credibility is under review." That sounds wise. His face tightened, but he controlled it. "Amira, I know I made a terrible mistake. A mistake is forgetting a birthday. You planned a wedding. I was confused. You were funded." He closed his eyes. "I am trying to apologize." "No, you are trying to reduce consequences." That landed. For a second, his mouth opened and nothing came out. Then he said quieter, "Did your father really leave all that to you?" I leaned back in my chair. And there it was. The real reason. Not the betrayal. Not the shame. Not the pain. Not the marriage. The trust. The number. The door he did not know I held. Yes. He swallowed. "Why didn't you tell me?" I almost laughed, but the sadness stopped it. "Because I did not know." He looked stunned. "You didn't know?" "No. But if you had." "If I had what?" His eyes met mine, then dropped. He knew better than to say it. If I had known, I would not have done this. That was the truth sitting in the room. Not because he would have loved me more, because he would have behaved better. And there is a painful difference between being loved and being strategically respected. My father saw you clearly, I said. Darius frowned. He barely knew me. No, you barely knew him. That is not the same thing. His face hardened. The old Darius tried to rise. Your father was a librarian. Yes, I said, and you were a man who used a stolen card to pay for fake vows. He looked like I had slapped him. I had not raised my voice. I did not need to. The truth was finally doing what shouting never could. He left without another word. 6 months later, the divorce was finalized. I kept the house because the mortgage had been mostly paid by me and my father's inheritance. Darius kept his debts, his damaged reputation, and whatever remained of his consulting business. The fraud matter ended with repayment agreements, legal penalties, and enough public record to make future investors cautious. Simone disappeared from our circles. Bernice called my mother once, saying families should heal. My mother said, "Heal from what? Your son's wedding?" Then she hung up. I loved her deeply for that. As for me, I did not become flashy. I did not buy a mansion. I did not start wearing diamonds to the grocery store. That kind of revenge never interested me. Instead, I went to work. Real work. I stepped into the Cole Family Literacy Trust slowly, guided by Mr. Hall, Claudia, and a board my father had chosen with great care. I learned about every holding, every grant, every program, every investment connected to education access. The more I learned, the more I understood why my father had hidden it. He did not want me to inherit wealth before I understood service. He did not want Darius or any man like him to smell money around me and call it love. We expanded adult literacy programs across 5 states. We funded library renovations in rural counties. We created emergency grants for women rebuilding after financial betrayal. I insisted on that part, not because every woman's story involved a stolen credit card and a fake wedding, but because many involved something close enough: a hidden loan, a drained account, a spouse who controlled passwords, a partner who said, "We're married," while treating shared life like private property. The program was called the Receipt Fund. My mother laughed when I told her. Daddy would have loved the name. 1 year after the reception, Southline Learning Group invited me to speak at their annual summit. The same group Darius had tried to enter. The same group that had quietly known my father's name for years. I stood on a stage in a navy dress, looking out at hundreds of educators, investors, librarians, founders, and community leaders. Not chandeliers, not wedding flowers, not a fake celebration. A room full of people who understood that access can change a life. In the front row, my mother sat beside Mr. Hall, holding a tissue. I began with the truth. My father taught me that every book has a borrowing record. So does every relationship. Some people return what they take. Some people damage what they borrow. Some never intended to return anything at all. The room went quiet. I continued. But literacy taught me something else. When you learn to read, you learn to recognize patterns. And when you recognize patterns, you stop calling harm confusion. After the speech, women lined up to speak with me. One told me her husband had opened loans in her name. Another said her ex had used her business credit to fund trips with another woman. A third cried so hard she could barely tell me her story, only that she had felt stupid for trusting someone. I held her hands. You were not stupid, I told her. You were loyal to someone who was dishonest. Those are not the same thing. That became the heart of the work, teaching women the difference between trust and blindness, between love and access, between forgiveness and returning the card. Months passed. Life became quiet again, but not small. The library expanded. My mother started teaching soap-making classes to women in our programs. I found my father's old cardigan and kept it on the chair in my office. Sometimes, on long evenings, I could almost imagine him walking in, asking what I was reading, waiting to see if I had truly understood the second chapter. One afternoon, a letter arrived. No return address. Inside was a handwritten note from Simone. Amira, you do not owe me anything, and I know I helped hurt you. Darius lied to me, but I also ignored things I should have questioned. I like the version of the story where I was chosen and you were already gone. I am sorry. I left event planning. I am back in school now. I do not expect forgiveness. I just wanted to say I know that dress was bought with your card, and I think about that more than I want to admit. Simone. I read it twice. Then I placed it in a drawer. Not because it fixed anything, because accountability, even late, deserves not to be thrown away like trash. Darius never wrote a letter. He sent emails sometimes, long ones, then short ones, then one-line messages around holidays. Hope you're well. Thinking about everything. Your father was a remarkable man. That last one made me close my laptop. People always praise what they can no longer use. 2 years after the reception, I returned to the Alderbrook Grand Hotel. Not for revenge, for a literacy gala. The Cole Family Literacy Trust hosted a fundraiser there because the hotel had later become one of our program sponsors, partly out of guilt, partly out of good public relations, but eventually, I think, out of genuine belief in the work. I almost said no when the board suggested it. Then my mother said, "Baby, don't let one thief own a whole building in your memory." So I went. The ballroom looked different without betrayal in it. No white roses on the walls, no fake wedding sign, no cream tuxedo, no stolen dress. Instead, there were tables filled with teachers, librarians, donors, volunteers, and women who had rebuilt their lives with help from the fund. On each plate was a small card that read, "The person holding the receipt is not always the one who owes the debt." I wrote that line myself. During the gala, the hotel manager pulled me aside. The same woman from that night. She looked older, or maybe I was just seeing her clearly now. "I never apologized properly," she said. "You did your job." "I still remember your face when you walked in." "So do I." She touched my arm gently. "You looked like someone who had just found the last page of a book she did not know she was reading." That stayed with me. Because she was right. That night had felt like an ending. But it was a final page, not the final book. Near the end of the gala, my mother asked me to dance. She was terrible. My father had been the dancer. She stepped on my foot twice and blamed the shoes. We laughed so hard people turned to look. For one moment, under the same chandeliers where my husband had tried to erase me, I was not humiliated. I was not abandoned. I was not the wife left off the guest list. I was my father's daughter, my mother's child, a woman who had survived the bill and kept the receipt. People often ask whether I hate Darius. I do not. Hate is expensive, and he already charged me enough. I hope he learns. I hope he becomes honest. I hope one day he understands that success built on stolen trust always collapses, even if the music is still playing when the first crack appears. But I do not hope for him to come back. Some doors should stay closed. Some cards should stay frozen. Some names should be removed from the account permanently. My husband did not invite me to his wedding reception, but he used my credit card to pay for the flowers, the dress, the ballroom, and the lie. He thought I would never find out. He thought I was too tired, too loyal, too simple, too busy helping other people read their stories to notice he had rewritten mine without permission. But the bank called. And sometimes, that is how grace sounds. Not like thunder, not like a miracle. Sometimes grace sounds like a calm woman from fraud protection saying, "Mrs. Langford, do you recognize these charges?" Sometimes grace is a frozen card, a printed receipt, a hotel manager opening a private office, a father's hidden trust waiting behind a safety deposit door, a mother saying, "Are you his wife or are you his bank?" A signature on a dispute form while music plays through the wall. And sometimes grace is walking into the room where people tried to celebrate your replacement and realizing that the person being replaced was not you. It was the version of you that kept paying for disrespect. That woman is gone now. I honor her. She survived long enough to get me here, but I do not let her hold the card anymore.